Is the mic working?
Yes. You hear me? Okay, thanks.
All right, let's call the meeting to order. 6 o'clock. Thank you all very much for being here. I would invite you to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
What's happening?
Echoes can be very distracting. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pat alone. Yep, line, all right. We'll call it good. All right, this is the public comment portion of our meeting. If you would like to address city council, this is your opportunity. Do we have anything on the sign up sheet? Tracy, make sure you introduce yourself.
Evening. I'm here as a Skamania County resident tonight at this moment. And there was a statement that was put in the paper about me misleading you about a statement I had made about obtaining vehicle information on the internet. So that information is incorrect. So I have provided documents here. I'm going to show them to you. They are mine. I just obtained them on my own time, my own home, on my own computer. This information is to show you that you can obtain that information. And that I didn't mislead you or lie to you about the information I told you. I just want to clear my name with you to make sure. I don't care what anybody else thinks, but I want you guys to understand I'm not going to mislead you. I'm not going to lie to you. It shows my name, my plate. It shows that I live in Stevenson, and this is the information on my vehicle. Obtained on the internet.
Very much.
You could decide on your own minds if you think it's accurate or inaccurate, but it's proof that it can be done.
And we have voucher signing signature sheets. Is that in here?
They are on.
All right, thank you.
Web.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Let's see. Is that Rick?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I was happy to see that the levy passed. I was pessimistic about its chances, but I think what swung things was that the potential of the sewer issue being addressed in a more systematic way in terms of development and hopefully expansion of the sewer system, finding ways to reduce fees for everyone. The more people on the sewer, the less the fees would be, and also would be helpful for the environment. Indirectly. So, yeah, I was happy about that, and I was surprised, and I think more than I would the supplies to the city. So anyway, that was it. Thanks.
Rick, anybody else? Right. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor, I'd like to pull item A off and move it down into the. So,
Fair enough. I would entertain a motion to approve item B of the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the meetings on January 16th and February 5th.
Second it.
All right, we have a first and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, you want to address item A now?
we can.
Sure, let's do it.
So, Ben and I have already had somewhat of a discussion, but I think it behooves us that we're all on the same page on this. Ben, could you reiterate again how we go about determining whether or not somebody's just got a big water bill and decided, I'm calling the city and I'm gonna get a break this month?
This is an area where you do have policies that guide how we review when somebody has a leak. So you have a forgiveness policy, when there is a leak. And we're being notified that we missed somebody as a public comment, so we will return back to them.
Sure.
Back to the leak adjustment policy. So when somebody notifies the city that there has been a leak, well, oftentimes what happens, we do utility reads. Those reads, if they're higher than normal, it throws a code and we make a call to the customer saying, hey, there's a potential that you have a leak. Have you noticed anything in your system or any changes? Those leaks could be a leaking toilet. It could be a broken line in the yard. It just varies. And then we lay out the options for those customers that they can request council forgiveness after they get that leak fixed. The maximum amount of forgiveness that's possible is $1,000. And we ask them to provide the justification for how they fixed it and when it was done. So once they make their request, it's not just waiving everything about their bill. It's not waiving every part of their usage down to the base fee. We go through and we do a calculation that shows what they typically used during that month in past years. And then the difference that's put to you all for approval is the current leak read
Up to.
up to $1,000 compared to their normal use. So there's a process in place, there's a policy in place that guides those decisions. And the front desk staff implements that process for us in making the calls, having the communications. There isn't an independent verification that that leak has been fixed, but the communication happens and it's based on trust.
And we have the capability to see what that usage is electronically.
Absolutely.
And isn't there's a limit on like you get forgiveness once every.
Once every 5 years.
Right.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up so that, because we have some new counselor members and I didn't know if they knew how we came about that figure. So thank you.
Yep.
And because of the, well, say recent, but because of the meter reading technology that we have, a leak is detected much sooner than it ever has been. So I got that phone call one day. Mary was in quite the panic that my water bill was creeping up. So that's very helpful.
So I would move to approve the water adjustment.
Second.
That's it.
All right, first and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Bill? All right, so we missed someone online for comment, and that does open the opportunity for Mr. Prosser to address council as well. So, who do we have online?
Mary.
No, all right. Make sure you introduce yourself. Thank you.
Yes, I'm not Dave Prosser. This is Mary Rapar. Thank you very much. First, I was in shock too when I received my water bill, and I after talking to Ben, I realized that I will only be saving like $2 per bill because the Proposition 1 passed. But maybe in the future we can go back down. This is like a lot, and we are probably the highest in the state. I don't know that for sure, but I'm willing to bet that we are. So those things need to come down. You don't want to have such high utilities that people can't afford to live here, especially us old timers. Thank you. The other day I spoke to oh, I'm not done yet. I spoke to the sheriff, Shire, and because I was concerned what her protocols would be in case ICE came calling into our community and other communities in the gorge. And she directed me to her PR release apparently 2 months ago, which she did not put in the paper because she doesn't support our local paper, apparently. And I don't think that's right. I asked my commissioners to make it a policy that all press releases from our elected officials go into the paper. We need a local newspaper. And she directed me to her PR. Now, I did not think that it actually said anything that would protect our citizens in the sense of, and I'm going to quote here, she said she would cooperate with her brothers and sisters in law enforcement. That does not reassure me. So I think our city needs to have some kind of protocol about immigration and the status of our citizens. Nobody is illegal. Humans aren't illegal unless they can't prove that they are citizens. And that has to be a court-issued order, I believe, and a signed warrant. So I would like a more clarification how our city is going to treat our citizens if and when ICE comes calling. Frankly, I don't want to see people being sent to Gitmo without due process. That is obscene, it is un-American, and it should not be happening on our soil. Thank you.
No?
Yes,
Mary?
now, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Dave, don't forget to introduce yourself in 3 minutes. David, 3 minutes.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm up.
Yep,
Holy. Geez.
3 minutes.
Well, first of all, I did get my road paved and I'm saying, thank God I got paved. It does have a few problems, but maybe city council might want to come out and kind of look at it. I know I worked very hard myself, and I know that I caused some people to get upset. But I am a taxpayer, a true blue taxpayer. I expect any kind of government, I don't care what kind of government it is, if people in Skamania County or the United States, wherever, are paying taxes, the government works for the people. If I'm wrong, somebody speak up and tell me that I'm wrong, but I feel as though I'm correct on that one. I did get a hold of some of my city council members because I was having a hard time with the paving job. City council I feel are my representatives. And city council stuck their neck out, and supposedly they were sticking their neck out, and they kind of got in trouble as far as with the idea that they were trying to micromanage. And all I was doing was asking some questions, and they would go and ask questions also. But I'm a taxpayer. City council, you're on city council. I live in the city. I should be able to contact any one of you as a representative, and you guys should be able to answer my questions that I have or look at the project. I got what I got because I worked very hard to get it, and I waited 30 years to get what I got. So I do want to thank, it happening. I do want to thank Pat Rice and Dave Cox for, standing up for me and being there. My next thing is, I know the city's looking for a city manager. I want to know why it wasn't in the paper. Can anybody tell me that? Why it wasn't in the paper? And that you're paying $20,000 for somebody to actually go out and headhunt. I mean, I see commercials on TV all the time where you just put it online and you get all these people to answer, right? I mean, boom. And why can't the city put it on, I mean, I have an email. I think everybody in the city has an email. Why can't they email and look for people? I have no idea. The levy tax, city, I heard the city paid $30,000 to try to sell that to the Americans, I mean, to the citizens of Stevenson. How ridiculous is that? Hey, so, again, there's nobody in the office, there's nobody that writes grants or is able to write to actually defend it or sell it. And then my next suggestion, because I gotta make this short because I know the mayor's gonna shut me up here soon. But why don't you look at combining the city and the port together as one unit? Save the taxpayer a lot of dollars, save a lot of time and effort, be some good planning and working together, because I know this, and I know this as a fact. Port does not want to work with the city because of that man right there. That is a fact. Port and the city need to work together. Now, I've had my problems with Ben. When the first time I met him, he does not want to work with contractors. All of you city council members should talk to the building unit people, contractors of Stevenson, and find out how they feel about this man. They do not want to work with him. They have to actually work with him. My 3 minutes is up. Well, just give me another minute, okay? All right. I first met Ben when a customer of mine built a stone wall. After 3 feet, you're supposed to have engineering. He's over there arguing that he needs engineering because it's 2 inches over 3 feet. I walk out, I shove some dirt up against the wall, say, measure it again. But that's what he does.
All right.
Do not hire that man and run manage.
Okay,
You won't have anything
we're good.
going on.
3 minutes. Bruh.
My bite is as bad as my bark.
So
Thank
what
you.
to say about that. All right, now we can move along. Oh, we have some presentations from outside. If you would like to jump up and introduce yourself.
Might be easier to see. And my name is Kika Kilpinska, and I grew up here in Stevenson. And I'm going to share a little bit about a project that I'm involved with called Skamania Kids and Youth. It's a new nonprofit as of October 2024. And
There we go.
Here's the presentation. And I'm also going to out myself as an unskilled presentation maker. I have been collaborating with a young person on my presentation. It wasn't ready, so I slid in finishing it quickly. So please forgive me for the unpolished nature, but Skamania, you can go to the next slide.
One more.
So we're a nonprofit that formed in October 2024, and we're fiscally sponsored right now by Seek. And also, where did y'all hear when Honey came and spoke? So you've gotten like a little bit of an orientation. Okay, next slide. Our mission is that we're dedicated to the well-being of youth in Skamania County, with the understanding that healthy youth reflect a healthy community. Next slide. And our big project is that we're launching a teen center in downtown Stevenson. And you're seeing right here, this is Honey. Some of you met her. These are a few members of the Youth Advisory Council. We'll get to that. It is a youth-led project. Next slide. I don't know who I'm looking at. I'm not looking at you. So the reason that we're moving forward very enthusiastically with launching a teen center is that number one, we think we can do it. we think that we can actually sign a lease March 1st, for a space in downtown Stevenson. And number two, we know that the town needs a teen center. It's reflected in both the youth and the adults in their lives. And then these are the key findings from the community's most recent community health assessment from 2024. And it's a youth center is specifically named as one of the needs for youth well-being around here. So we want to make it happen and hope that it leads to more community spaces for a wider variety of ages, but teens are often able to just realize things quickly. Next slide. So some of the things that this again is the Youth Advisory Council. This is us planning a fundraiser that we had about almost 2 weeks ago. And again, the project is youth-led because we think that if youth create the space, they're going to be more likely to use it. And some of our goals for what this space will foster are social connections, opportunities for extracurricular learning, community and civic engagement, immersion in creative processes, and non-clinical mental health supports is really like a driving force. So we'll get to that next slide. So yeah, I'm laughing at myself a little bit about my slide. One thing I didn't say about myself is that I was the community director for another nonprofit, Culture Seed, for 5.5 years. So I had the opportunity to work directly with a smaller group of local teens. And in that time, I did not meet one teen for 5.5 years who wasn't impacted, who wasn't experiencing mental health challenges. So I had some really direct firsthand experience of what it looks like to be a teen right now. And next slide. One of the things that I saw repeatedly was the effectiveness of the very simple non-clinical mental health supports of connection, meeting in groups, meeting in social spaces, and belonging. And so our premise is that if we provide a space where teens like that they can return to, that there will very naturally begin to be some pretty strong protective factors in the teen mental health epidemic. So next slide. And then also just, this is a little shout out to the youth-led nature of the project. There's a group, the Youth Advisory Council, which we're about to get to, that is a group of 10, it fluctuates 10 to 12 youth, and we're meeting weekly right now. We've had every other week for most of the time. Watching the time. I am really interested in agency for teens. They're about to be they're the rising stewards of the world, and the opportunity to build a world locally is valuable. So they're in charge of the project, and then also just maybe some of the best practices for teen centers. So we have youth involvement in our planning and policies. We have continuity of core adult allies. Right now that's mostly just me, but we have a partner agent. I'm there. We have a partner agent organization, and I think some nice relationships are going to come out of that. Centrality of location, you can like placing teens on the main street of town starts to break down the separation between teens and the rest of their community that can occur. And then continual youth engagement in space management and culture. And that's a big part of what the current youth council is working on, is what is the culture here. Next slide. And this is some of the Youth Advisory Council. Some of them fled when they learned their picture was going to be taken. This is at the fundraiser. Next slide. They're really quite dedicated. They have conducted surveys, reached out to both peers and adults in the community. Saw Honey here. They hosted the fundraiser, which was an interactive evening with a lot of different elements that they put together. And they're working on the teen center culture and policies. They've done outreach for donations, and they've sticky noted the entire building that the teen center is going to be in with ideas for how best to use that space to promote well-being. So next slide. These are some photos from the fundraiser last week. There's Rick. And there were all ages of people there. These handprints represent all the different local businesses and people who donated to the silent auction. It was pretty exciting to see how much community support was available. And we actually raised more than half of our sustainable rent goal, which is we want to have 1 year's worth of rent in order to feel confident signing a lease. And we're more than halfway there. So next. So this is our kind of ideal timeline. We're more than halfway there for our 20K. It's creeping up on March. We're hoping to sign our lease March 1st. Spend the spring transforming the space. We had a lot of signups for work parties and different skilled labor. And then our partner organization, we'll get to that, is Community Art Studio of Skamania. So CAST will move in late spring. And then over the summer, we're going to have pop-up workshops by adults in the community that youth select based on interest. Adults at the fundraiser, and this continues, you can keep doing this. Adults described little workshops or experiences that they have the skills to facilitate for youth, put them in the magic mailbox. Youth read through these index cards and they select based on interest, and then we contact adults, and those will happen as workshops throughout the summer. So that's one of the intergenerational efforts. And again, it's still youth-led. And then drop-in hours in the fall. Next slide. I'm trying to speak fast. So these are just some of our core values: youth-led, partnership-based, community-supported, and place-specific. So in the really big grand scheme of things, we want to put Skamania County on the map as a place that youth thrive. And we believe that the resources, both community-wise and in terms of nature, are here to do that. We don't want to just become a bedroom community. So we're centering youth through these ways. Next slide. Thank you, Tiffany. This was near the end of the presentation. This is a page from our website. You can look at our website if you're interested. We value collaboration, and this is an invitation to existing youth allies in Skamania County who would want to facilitate resource sharing and just to build community between people who are already working on behalf of youth. A lot of we think there could be more pollination that happens, and we want to contribute to that in any way possible. Next slide. So come if you're meeting allies. Our partner organization is CAST. If anybody does not know about CAST, they're a free art experience. They provide studio space that's open and welcome. It has some compatible values with Sky. So they'll be in the space, and the Youth Advisory Council will work carefully with CAST to determine which hours are teen specific and which hours, like during school hours, are adult specific and which ones overlap. Next slide, we're almost at the end. You may have seen this survey around town. One of our goals is to really solicit community voice in what Skamania County's wishes for the future generations are here, and to begin to cohere kind of a vision and a narrative that comes really from our community, and see if we can bring that to life. And so we're circulating a long-term community legacy survey. You'll see it for the next year. And we featured some of our early answers to this survey as love letters on the walls of the space that we had our fundraiser in. It was great. So next slide. Yeah, I think this is the last one. And this is just about believing in the wealth of the community that's already here. We really saw that at the fundraiser, and we've seen it, both the teams and I have seen it as we've been organizing, that there's a tremendous amount of community support and knowledge, and yeah, just existing structures, and we're excited to build on that. So I think the next one is thank you. Oh, this is important. We are currently an all volunteer run organization. Honey, who you already met, has a really important role. She's a youth lead. We we signed up, I think, 13 monthly donors at our fundraiser and a little bit afterwards, and they are really the backbone of our support. So if you're interested in becoming a monthly donor, you know somebody who might be, that really gives us confidence paying our rent every month. And then of course we're going to be, we're now moving into a phase where we're seeking bigger funding opportunities, and we'll be writing grants. And we have some youth interested in learning grant writing skills. If anybody has the skills to offer a workshop in that, that would be great. That's, I think the next slide is thank you. Yeah, and that's our website, and you can learn more about us at our website. And watch for our doors opening. So that's the end of my presentation. That was longer than time.
Thank you.
And if anybody has any questions.
Real quick,
Yeah.
I know you tried at the beginning of the presentation, I apologize if I missed it, where's the physical plant?
It's in the old H&R Block building. It's across from the courthouse lawn. And so there's really, the thought is really that if we do center teams, we're breaking down some really entrenched separation. And that we really want to utilize all the support that's in the community. Like there are different business owners who've approached us with ideas for how to incorporate youth. Youth are interested in being part of the community. And so we just want to see how it goes. What is it like to have a teen center on the main street of town? So yes, that's what it is. Thanks for letting me, thank you for letting me present.
Thanks for being here. Okay. All right. I believe that brings us to the sheriff's report.
And again,
I see it.
provided you documents for the services provided for the month of January. Do you have any questions or concerns?
Mr. Wyckoff, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you know, in regards to whether or not, when you got that information about your license plate number on the internet, could you have gotten that information about other people's license plates numbers? Like, could you have just picked a license plate you saw on the street and gone and gotten the same information online for free?
All I will tell you is I put in my license plate and it gave me the information on my license plate. So I'm assuming, yes, you could use any license plate. I didn't have to tell them who I was or specify what I was looking for under my name or anything else.
Okay, follow-up question.
I don't feel it's my obligation to do the research for people. If they can't do it themselves, I can't help that. But it's not my job to do the research to make sure you can figure it out.
Okay, no, I'm not trying to be argumentative with you, but you did testify to city council as your role as undersheriff. And so I'm just asking follow-up questions about that. And in response to that, I sent you two statutes, a federal law and a state law, in reference to your testimony. And I asked you if you had reviewed those laws. Have you?
Whether there's laws there or not, I was still able to do it. It is possible. And I showed the council here what I obtained by entering my own number.
Okay, so
whether
basically,
there's laws in there to prevent it, I'm saying it can be done.
okay, so my question to you though, and I sent you a couple emails that so far haven't been answered. This is directly related to your earlier testimony as undersheriff. I sent you two statutes, a federal and a state, and I wanted to know if they were applicable. And I asked if you would send them by your legal counsel. So you're telling me you've not done that yet. Is that correct?
No, because I don't see any reason to. I'm able to obtain the information I told you I could.
Okay, but you're
Whether there's laws in place or not.
Okay, all I'll say is you're one of the top law enforcement people in the county. And if you don't understand the interpretations of the law, what happens if somebody comes to you and said, this law has been violated, please enforce it? What are you going to do?
I think any laws that are about that statute is not within our guidelines as the sheriff's office of Skamania County to enforce.
Okay, I will follow up with Adam Kick on this, and maybe he can clarify what the law is since you're not wanting to do that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any question?
Really, I was just gonna make a comment, Tracy, I wanted to thank you and Sheriff Shire for the presentation on the flock cameras at the beginning of the month.
You're very welcome.
It was a good presentation.
Anything else?
Trace, you know why they pulled the camera down here by the pot place?
That camera was, I received a call from the owner there at High Five. she felt there may be a concern of people not wanting to come to her shop because the camera was there. Out of a courtesy, I'm having it removed. I had it removed and we're gonna relocate it. We didn't have to.
No, I know that, but I kind of figured that was probably the reasoning behind it.
She felt there might be a concern with people that are coming in, even though it didn't show her shop, it didn't show vehicles turning into her shop or anything else. I made a decision to work with Flock to have it relocated.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you. All right, next up, public hearing. I'd like to open the public hearing at 6:34. Staff report, Ben.
You have in front of you, potential budget amendment. That amendment would change, 4 of the city funds. The change for tourism is there was a miscalculation, when you added up all the contracts and the administrative support of the city necessary for, that fund. So it's a change to the expenditures, allowing all those contracts and the city to administer them. Then there are also changes transferring money from the general fund into the streets fund and into the fire fund, which would be renamed from the fire reserve fund. So the transfer out of the general fund for the fire fund is all of the operational expenditures that were authorized as part of the budgeting process would go directly into that fire fund. By moving it out of the general fund now or in the future, this practice were to continue, you would take the action to transfer those operational funds into fire. Unused funds there would just stay there. And so that practice that was in place that wasn't based on any policy or long-term commitments would happen as a result of the annual budgeting process that you do at the end of the year. The other change there would be to transfer money from the general fund into the street fund. And that would cover the need for some consulting services, development review services, and purchase of radar feedback signs, like the 2 that are on the end of town. So 2 additional signs to add to that in other locations of town. End of report.
All right, are there any comments from the public?
Yeah, just,
And make sure you introduce yourself.
yeah, I'm sorry, Mike Perry, City of Stevenson. Just kind of an overview real quick. I don't want to get into the weeds on your amendment. But based on the discussions last month, got a little, you guys got into the weeds on that a little bit. I think I just want to say, I think it is important that, on the fire side, that however you do it, that you do set money aside for those long-term capital expenses that are going to be needed in the future. Yes, a fire engine is going to run you over $1 million outfitted. That's the going rate. Your self-contained breathing apparatus. Before I retired, I was assigned to John Wayne Airport and I had to replace 15 because the airport purchased them separate from the fire department. And this was 7 years ago and I paid $14,000 a piece. So also turnouts, I can't speak intelligently about what the turnout situation is with Stevenson Fire Department, but by NFPA standards, they have to be completely replaced every 10 years. I don't know if that's been done or not, but if you have to replace, let's say 20 sets, you're going to be looking at, easily $60,000, $80,000 minimum for that. So in the end, I think it's wise. However you go about it in that fire fund is to have a certain set or amount of money put away for various capital, whether it's a vehicle replacement fund, you know, X amount of dollars a year, and then putting, you know, equipment. So when that, all of a sudden that big cost hits the city, you guys aren't all having chest pains when the fire chief says, oh, by the way, our fire engine just blew up. We need to order a new fire engine, and that's gonna be $1 million. That would be a pretty significant financial hit. So I think it's wise to budget some money aside for those in the future. So that's all I have to say, but I appreciate you guys hearing me on this.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'd like to close the public hearing at 6:39. Council?
Dave?
Oh, go
I
ahead.
suppose we should probably have at least some public comment, I mean, some comment amongst our council before we leave this for, you know, part of the public hearing, so people have a chance to digest it. I don't know how many people in council have already made up their mind how they want to vote on this, but,
Well, there was some interest in discussion before motion, and I would entertain that idea.
yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Ben, I noticed, in, let's see, scenarios 1, 2, 3. It looks like you're missing about 20,000, a little over 20, almost 21,000 out of the transfer out.
It's not a transfer out, that's the change in the tourism fund. And
You know
so,
what?
in the tourism fund, so when you total down the right-hand column for the ending cash balance, that 21,000 is the authorized expenditure of the tourism fund. Explain that again, if that didn't make sense. Tourism fund doesn't need a transfer in from the general fund. You had authorized expenditures that were equal to something that was less than the total amount of contracts that you authorized and the staff time to administer the tourism fund and those contracts. And so this would correct that and allow for all of those contracts plus the staff support to occur.
So money's there. This is changing the budget to allow for the expenditure.
Yes.
The approved, or already approved expenditures.
Yeah.
So explain to me what we've gone from 25,000 to 411,809 into the fire fund.
Mhm.
How did we get there?
3 components of that. So the 411 is the 25,000 plus the remainder of last year's operational funds that were unspent. And so that's the motion that was
Which was how much?
last meeting. It was 111,000 plus.
Eliminate 1.
And then the 275,000 for operational funds for this year. So 111,000 that goes into the estimated ending cash of the fire fund. 111,000 plus the 25,000 goes into the estimated ending cash in the fire fund. And then the 274 goes into the authorized expenditures. And that's the same figure that was authorized to be expended out of the general fund.
And that was what?
That's the same figure that you had authorized to expend out of the general fund for this year, or how this year's budget was built.
So the way I understand that part was rather than as we spend it, pull it out of the general fund. And then at the end, we look at the whatever was left of that, it would be transferring into a fire fund and spending it directly out of that fund.
Mhm.
So it's the same money, it's just shows up and it's easier to track in the fire fund.
Correct.
That was what I understood about that.
That will achieve the policy goal that some of you had expressed, that any of the unused funds will just stay with fire every year. You would make that transfer at the start of the year and it would stay in that fund unless you authorize a transfer out of the fire fund back to the general funds. It also achieves a goal of being able to better report and have discussions with Fire District 2 when the time comes to alter that structure, where here we're pulling up the numbers from one fund and our activities within that fund. It's easy enough to pull it from financial software where it is, but it's a little easier to explain this way when it's one fund.
So what are some of the fire expenditures?
Fire expenditures involve machine repair, purchase of the turnouts, SCBA's, purchase of, I know just recently they purchased TICS thermal imaging cameras to really pinpoint where the dangerous parts of a building are before they go in. So operational funding, capital expenditures for assets like that over time, the fireman stipend, the fire chief's stipend.
Okay, so I think you know where I'm coming from on this.
Yeah.
Why are those capital expenditures not being pulled out of the fire fund then, rather than out of the general fund? Because that's what the fire fund's for.
Currently, the fire reserve fund, as it's set up right now, is a reserve for capital expenditures. And so the cameras, the equipment that would be categorized as authorized capital equipment could come out of that. They haven't had any direction to do so. And in fact, the year-over-year budgets that we've been passing for that fund don't authorize any expenditures. So it's the city council's actions each year indicate to the people controlling fire budget that you can't spend any of that. We're just going to sit on that this year.
But yet we're required to put money into it.
You've chosen to.
Also, keep in mind that the fire fund is a brand new fund. This has never existed before. So this is a way to try to clean it all up.
When
So
was
that we can address
the
some of the
fire fund
issues.
established?
Fire reserve fund has existed, I think it was 2016 or 17 when that was established.
And part of that, about 700,000 was from Stevenson Assets timber sale, correct?
I believe it's that number, but I haven't tracked it back that far.
Roughly, roughly. Okay.
I have a question when Dave's done.
Go ahead.
You know, maybe I missed it, but I didn't see in the packet, the way I look at it is there's two types of expenditures, and tell me if I'm wrong. We have the expenses for the year, and then you have capital improvement projects, the big ticket items, and that's separate. So it seems to me from an accounting view, and I think this might be what Dave's getting at, is you can also budget for the big ticket items. You can say, this is how much we want in reserves. This is how much we're saving for the for the fire truck or whatever. And those things are all just spelled out. And then, so I did talk to Ray Broughton earlier today, and I asked him, I said, well, this is the first reading of this. I said, do you have any problem if the council chose to not vote on it this first reading and we voted on it next month when we got some of our questions answered? And I asked him, I said, would that affect your fire operations in the next month? And if I understood his answer correctly, it was no, it wouldn't affect it. We don't need to vote on this tonight. So I thought that was good, because what I haven't seen so far that would be good to see is the breakdown I'm used to seeing is, well, what to really know is one vote. What are their expenses this year that they're going to spend now if they have the right to spend? And what are the capital improvement items? And then, and also, I guess I misunderstood when we voted last time for some of this to be rolled over into the reserve fund. I didn't know we had to revisit that, but apparently we are. I just thought that would be automatically happening. So, but it doesn't really matter. That's just a technical thing. So I don't mind what we've already voted on happening. But anyway, so my hope would be that we have the first reading tonight on this, and then we vote on it next month when people like me can maybe understand the budget better and see. I know Mr. Broughton, and I think he's doing a very good job. He's really not struggling. He's doing a good job of trying to understand the budget himself, and he's very forthcoming on wanting us to understand it. He has no problem with these questions at all, and that's good. So anyway, those are my comments for now.
Mr. Rice, just real quick, we wouldn't vote on a first reading. You vote on the second reading. The first reading is so you guys can manipulate or change anything so that you get to your second reading when you would approve, just so you know.
Okay.
You can vote tonight.
Okay, so we're not voting tonight anyway. Okay, it was my understanding we could have made the motion, but I stand correct on that. That's good.
Good,
Good. So I guess my, what I would like to see out of this is I would like to see a breakdown of those fire expenditures and water considered capital expenditures and what are not. Because as far as I'm concerned, the way our budget is and the way things are so tight, the less money we pull out of the general fund, the better off we are. And if we have those money set aside already in the fire reserve or fire fund or whatever you want to call it, that are already there specifically for the purpose of those capital expenditures, then that's where we should pull that from, rather than from those general funds. So that's what I would like to see.
I'd like to get a clarification if I could. At what point did we decide to consolidate the fire reserve and the fire fund?
That's the proposal.
I know it's part of the proposal, but I'm questioning it. Now I understand the reason for doing this. So anything left over in their budget at the end of the year doesn't have to be transferred into a reserve fund. But I'm kind of wondering about it now.
Well, it sounds like they're changing the name only.
Yeah, they don't have an operational fund and a reserve fund separate. You know, in other words, a general fund of their own that we've allocated was it $274,998 for a year for their general expenses, and then leave the money that was in the reserve fund as a separate fund. I understand that we'd have to authorize any transfers at the end of the year, but
Easily done.
anybody else have any thoughts on that?
So what you're saying is the fire fund and the fire reserve fund are different funds?
Yeah.
That's not, that's,
No, that's not part of the proposal.
He's saying
I'm questioning.
his idea would be to create a fire fund that is the budget for the year, and then keep the reserve fund like it is. And then, so we budgeted 275 or 250, whatever it is, for the year, and make that a fire in the fire fund, and we spend that down, and whatever's left from that, then could move over to the reserve fund. Rather than having, it was just an idea. That's not in any of the proposals, that was just an idea.
Yeah, I'm just asking.
What's the utility in revisiting the 270,000 you already authorized? So as part of the annual budgeting process, you've already gone through the process of reviewing the expenditures there and authorized the 274. So what's the utility in revisiting that now? And is it worth it compared to the outcry we saw last month?
Well,
where I was cut off.
yeah, so if you're treating it as one fund, then they're basically, they could conceivably expend money in excess of the 274,000 that we've allocated for their budget for the year.
No, because there would still be the reserved line within that budget that would have the
Take it to
what's
separate
currently
authorization to
1.9.
use money from the reserve fund.
So
they can use
they are distinct funds. Okay.
Ben, can I ask, I guess the question is I don't think any of us put this on the agenda again, so so I don't know that we are revisiting this again. What's been budgeted has been budgeted. So nobody's questioning that, right?
Motion last month was to prepare a budget amendment for your review.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll speak for myself. I'm not questioning what we budgeted last year. I'm just sticking with what I said, in that I think in a budget that I, as part of this discussion where they're wanting to make changes, to have a better understanding of the capital improvement projects. I mean, B, this is for reserves. A, this is operating expenses that we have a right to spend already, and we're going to be spending them. So just that is what I don't have clear in my head yet, is all. And one of the things is, I think sometimes it comes if we question things that, oh, we're against the fire or we're against the police, that we all know that's not true. And we're all scared over some of the fires we've seen in California and across the river. So we want a robust fire department that is well maintained and funded. So that's not the issue here at all. And I think some of the outcry might have come because they were worried that we're going to cut funding or something. Well, that's not going to happen. At least I don't see that happening. So but one of the concerns I have is that we don't have reserve funds for a lot of other things too, that we probably should have reserve funds for capital improvements. And so when we're doing it here and we're not doing I'd like to see a little more discipline throughout the budget process. We had a major water leak recently, but well, did we have a reserve fund there? So I think we need to be looking at this for the entire budget on all our capital improvement projects and say, hey, we're going to start saving money for this. So, and I'm not saying we should penalize the fire department because we don't do it in other areas. I think maybe they're helping us take the lead on it, should be commended for the fact they are wanting to set money aside. I think they're trying to do it the right way, I think. Anyway, end of my comments for now.
And again, Pat, I'm gonna go right back to my comments about if you want to set money aside, then put it into the budget. Budget it each month or each year. And that way, then you know what you're working with, rather than doing an overall budget and then whatever's left over, you move it into the fire reserve fund. That is not fiscally sound.
Yeah, and I'll just make one more comment. The reason I agree with you is because what if that number that's left over isn't enough and it should be higher? But if we took a hard look at what needs to be put in for those big equipment items, we might approve more of a budget because we're forced to look at it early on. So I think from an accounting standpoint, I think you're right. Myself as one person.
Along those lines, if we're looking at $1.5 million of expenditure for a new fire engine with a 20-year life expectancy, you need to be putting $75,000 a year into that fund, not 25.
Well, then that's maybe what should happen. But right now, they're planning on just rolling over whatever the balance is, putting it in. And that's not fiscally sound.
Okay, so the discussion that led up to city council meeting last month was trying to clean all of this up, to try to address this concern about what do you mean what's left over? So we asked the chief to write down the things that reserve fund could be used for, also with the understanding that didn't see that coming money. So there was trying to build that into something that could be written down to create some oversight, so that it wasn't just a slush fund that could be, well, we want to make sure that we know what's going on with it. We'll be able to see the numbers. So that part was attempted to be addressed at the last meeting. So since the last meeting, to try to keep it so that the budgeting is in a neat, tidy little bow, just like we take money out of general and put it into the street fund. Street fund has their budget. Water has a budget. So the idea is to create a similar fund for fire. Whether or not the reserve fund stays as a line item within that fund, it still would have to be itemized so that there could be some oversight. And that was the most important part, this nebulous bucket of money that nobody really knows what anticipated uses are, but then also with the understanding, again, there's, oh wow, did not see the fire engine blowing up happening. So if it's important to keep the reserve fund separate from the fire fund, I don't know, it feels like semantics to me. But as far as other departments setting aside or budgeting in the same way, money that's left over can go to a reserve fund, or the concept of a reserve fund has already been discussed, but it didn't feel like right now was the time to dive into that for all the departments, especially with the upcoming hiring of an administrator. So that is something that we would have on a list of, and we are interested in creating an opportunity for these departments to budget for some savings or a reserve fund. So these things are already in the mix. The big reason that we're talking about a brand new fire fund is to make it easier to keep an eye on it, to what exactly is going on, with an expectation that what the money was going to be spent on and what anticipated things would be spent on will be documented.
You know, Mr.
So,
Mayor,
go for it.
I just wanted to comment, because you reminded me of a thought I had. You are right that we are bringing on a new city manager at some point. And is there any reason that they can't whoever that person is, we put off hiring personnel and everything else until that person comes. Is there any reason they can't take a look at this and help us wrap our hands around this? The main thing I asked Mr. Broughton today when I spoke to him is, what are your operational needs the next month or two? And it sounded like they're fine. They're able to do whatever they need to do financially with their budget. So I'm just saying that I have no problem if the rest of the people, I mean, either it can be dealt with next month, or give this to the new city manager and say, hey, we're already thinking of what you just said, doing this for all our budgets and having a reserve funds, have this be part of it. So do we need to piecemeal do this ourselves, or can we give that to that new person that may have some fresh ideas on it? But we all know that we need to properly fund the fire department. And that's why my main question was, are you fine the next couple months? Do you have everything you need? And the answer was yes. But anyway, okay, I'm done with my comments.
Right, I mean, we have a budgeted, like, it's already budgeted for the year.
Nothing changes.
Nothing changes right
Exactly
now.
the
They're
same as
still-
operations
right,
last
They're
year.
still fine with that, like, there's not a
Okay,
ability to spend currently. Okay.
heard. Any discussion on the street portion of it?
No.
No.
It sounds like we wrapped our head around the tourism aspect. Any thoughts on what's been proposed for the street amendment? And was there an update on, we're gonna discuss the items that Carolyn found from future, or are we gonna save that for an update later?
I'm not tracking exactly what you're asking about.
Grant money that wasn't, reimbursables that
Right.
hadn't been realized.
Carolyn,
Or is it even apropos to this conversation in the public hearing process?
probably not.
No, we can wait.
Yeah, so I don't think we're gonna do any proposal. I don't have anything else to say about it this point.
Well, because you're presented with a couple different scenarios. So, is there anything that you guys would like to vote on as far as, because you do have the opportunity to vote or make a motion to vote, or push it all off till next month.
I would like
I
to
do-
make a motion to attach scenario 1 and approve an ordinance amending the budget for the city of Stevenson for fiscal year 2025 as presented and amended.
We have a first and a second, any further discussion?
Well, I have a question. Didn't Robert Muth say that we had to vote on this next month, that we couldn't vote on this? I'm confused.
We have the opportunity, you have the opportunity to kick it to next month, but you can vote tonight.
Okay, I thought I heard him say that you could not vote until next month. Okay,
No.
I'm not hearing him. He's muted.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
he said we could.
Like I said, you could, you didn't have to, because you were pushing whether or not you had a vote, because it is a first reading.
Okay.
You don't have to vote. If you choose to vote, that is the council's prerogative.
Okay, I misunderstood what you said. I'm sorry. So,
Sorry.
but, okay, the part we're voting on though is we're just taking the fire stuff out of it and voting on that. That's what I wanted to be clear on because I'm
The
not,
motion is scenario one.
No,
Scenario one
scenario
includes
one.
all of them, Pat.
pardon me. Okay, yeah, I just not wanting to go back and forth and read this scenario, what that is in front of me while we're,
Yeah,
okay.
Scenario one includes all three.
Okay, includes everything. Okay.
Correct. And there's been a first and a second.
So we're not, I can't get the information on the capital expenditures.
So as the mayor noted, Ray tried to provide that at the last meeting. We can work with him to show what capital expenditures he's anticipating. He provided that. We can get that into your hands directly.
I was looking
But
at
that, but that won't help, the pulling out of the general fund. Moving those expenditures out of the fire reserve.
it would be taking the money that's already been approved and moving it into their own department.
Yeah.
So the amount hasn't changed in how they came to the number or how we can.
No additional expense, it's just coming, yeah, just being allocated to their fund.
I'm just trying to reduce the amount of money that the general fund is putting out.
And so under this motion, then everything at the end of the year would go into the reserve fund, correct?
It stays in the fire fund.
Okay, and in the reserve, okay.
But it would be a line item as a savings. Quote, savings, right?
And then that annual budgeting process in future years, you're having a deeper conversation because it's that transfer out to the fire fund every year and you can ask the questions about capital each time. And in fact, it prompts you to ask that question in a different way than when it's just rolled into the general fund.
I guess you could say it'd be subject to the same, additional scrutiny that the other funds are with being part of a capital improvement.
But just to be clear, I'm not ready to vote yes on this tonight. If I were forced to vote, I'd be voting no, whereas next month with more information, I likely would be voting yes. So we can force a vote on it now if you want, but
Well, there is a motion and a second on the table.
Unless the movement wants to table the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Opposed, nay.
All right, motion carries. Next up, Ben.
You have a series of billing adjustments that have been requested. Computer's fallen asleep. Requested, there's been a lot of communication directly with the council from the customer here. And so the background you have there is listed on the agenda, and attached to that is the billing history here with columns for what would have been incurred per policy, what was actually billed to the customer, what the customer has paid, and then what has been waived by the city already. Don't have any recommendation for you on this because there's no policy that the city has that would guide a recommendation.
So is this by motion?
There's three separate motions and one.
I think three, but we're capable of tracking however you just choose to make a decision.
I'd be prepared to make a motion that we approve all of these items and vote yes to relieve the customer of these responsibilities as outlined by Ben in his memo.
I'll second that motion.
We have a first and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Said aye. All right, so I believe that's unanimous.
And that's for A, B, and C.
Against.
Correct.
Yes, all of them is what I intended.
Yep, correct. That's what we got.
Is there still an initiative to continue to
Yes. I'll
closely
report on that.
examine?
I'll report on that.
Okay. All right, moving along, you have in front of you draft committee and board appointments. The idea here, after working with Ben, is we would have each of you on 2 separate committees. Is there any discussion on the proposed committee and board appointments as you see them? If none, I would entertain a motion to approve them.
I move to approve the committee appointments
Second,
as presented.
We have a first and a second by Michael. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, unanimous. Thank you very much.
Sometimes I can predict which ones go on the consent agenda, sometimes I can't. Missed it on this one.
Well, last time we did have discussion on that, so I totally understand.
You have some informational items in your packet. And now we're moving on to staff reports. So Ben, you've got a couple hats to report from.
Couple of hats. I will ask to give Tiffany some space to speak to. Community Development Director report. We are now live with our online permitting portal for planning permits. So last year, beginning of last year, we went live with building permits. Sometime in the middle of last year, we added nuisance complaints to that, and now planning is live. So we no longer have to receive paper-based plans or require applicants to submit 7 sets of paper-based rolled plans for a subdivision. We can accept all of that online right now. The permitting process enables effective communication with those applicants about the status of the application and where it's at in the review process. And it's a good one. Tiffany's been instrumental in getting that set up. So thank you very much for that.
So when they put in they want to build a house, they send it like PDF files?
Yes,
Oh, wonderful.
yeah. But we still take them over the counter too. You know, some people can't, so that's fine.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, it's good. And it's a lot easier as a reviewer too, because you can pick it up from a computer anywhere in the world and do the reviews. You don't need that thick paper file to tote around. So it's easier for applicants. It's easier for us. It does involve a learning curve. We went through a lot of that with the building community.
Yeah.
It remains to be seen how much we'll go through on the planning side, but
It'll get there.
it'll get there.
It's new.
As noted previously too, you will have a rezoning application that comes to this table. I anticipate that'll be at the March meeting. So in the past, when the council has been quite busy, they had chosen to review subdivision applications. It may have just been subdivision applications at separate meetings so that they could focus directly on that and not have the pressure of moving on to approve vouchers and have accomplished all the other council business. I don't think you're there. I don't think the volume of our meetings here right now are too big, but that's always an option for you. If we do see an uptick in development or review of these planning applications, these quasi judicial decisions that you would have to make, we can schedule special meetings for the council just to review those and give you a chance to do a deep dive instead of a broad overview that you have at these other meetings. End of report. Carolyn has submitted a written report.
Ben, can I ask you a question? And it probably would have gone under Carolyn's section. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I've had a couple of citizens ask, and Carolyn, I know, was on top of this on the testing for the forever chemicals, that whether or not they're in our system. And I know that's being happening throughout the US. And apparently there's some monies available to do that for Stevenson. Last I heard that anyway, that would be coming up at some point. Do we know when that testing, do we know yet when that testing might be done here?
We've done our first round of testing. It was non-detect for all the required factors that we had to test for. So non-detect is non-detectable. It's not zero as a percentage of something that gets rounded to zero. It's non-detect. So that puts us into a category where we have to do testing again on a quarterly basis. I believe it is for 2 years. I'm going off of a verbal report that I got on this. So this information may not be correct, but I think it's quarterly testing for 2 years. If it continues to be non-detect, then we won't have to do that testing as often or potentially ever, something like that. Other communities that had some level of response in the initial round of testing are on a different testing schedule. So we're on the lowest tier of testing schedule and hope everything remains, that those chemicals aren't in our water. They shouldn't be, because there's not industry that's polluting our watershed.
Oh, so it sounds like some initial testing's been done then. Sound right, if I heard that correctly. Okay, thank you.
And our watershed is above the Columbia too.
Yeah,
correct.
I noticed in Carolyn's report that there was no mention about the Russell Street parking. I want to make sure it stays on the agenda.
It is, that's one of the consultant support items that would be covered in the $50,000, so.
Okay. All right.
Who's next? George, Callan, do we have some?
Oh, I have a public records report.
What?
Oh, sorry. Since the beginning of 2025, we've had 9 requests, and it's roughly 28.5 hours in search time and communications to the requesters. All but one has been deemed closed. The remaining has an installment plan, and just working just to say hi, and I'm working to continue my education and properly deal with these records retention and records organizations and requests. So actively working towards this policy with updates that run concurrently with the state's policies. So we're kind of updating some things. And just our goal is to be able to provide better service with a more focus on detail and timeliness. It's kind of a new endeavor for me. So I know there may be hiccups along the way, so please forgive me. I'll try to do my best. But I just really want to say that I want to make a point of saying I have an unwavering commitment to transparency and to expediency. So I'm hoping that, you know, with all of this, you'll have better reports, or more reports, I should say, not better, but just reports and updates and things like that. So, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is a ton of work, but you know what? I like that. I like the research part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was just showing the mayor the water leak.
That, I think that qualifies as more than a leak. I mean, okay, I guess in the grand.
That's a Houston, we've got a problem.
Yeah, okay, as the definition of leak goes, yes, there's water escaping where it's not supposed to.
That is an 8-inch
Fountain.
water leak.
Yeah, and then I don't know if you noticed, that was one of the things in Carolyn's report, is that this is an ongoing issue. So part of the plan to fix it is going to be something that we move to the capital improvement plan so that we can address it's the second time in 4 months, 6 months, something like that.
Well, and when we first bought our house there on Shepherd, we had a major break right across the street, and I don't know if it's that whole area. Maybe we need to just take a look at the geology and figure out, well, how that's gonna work, because I think you're gonna continue.
You were affected by the same water leak, correct?
Yeah.
So
Flooded basement.
there is a portion of the water line that runs through a property. It's not on a right of way.
Yeah.
So it's entirely possible that there's something exterior that is bouncing on that pipe.
Yeah.
So there is a plan afoot to, for a short, well, not a short term fix, a quick fix.
But it's gonna need more investigation.
I would agree with that.
The property owners there report that they tiptoe
Yeah.
through that area
Yeah.
when they're in their own yard. So yeah, getting it off that private property is a priority that Carolyn understands and works to fix.
In my mind, we don't get those water breaks in the winter time. So I was a little startled when the water just stopped flowing. That was the problem. Since I was really late for a wedding, so, yeah. All right, so that's all of that. Okay, so do we have voucher signature sheets?
Yeah.
I guess we can
Are they
still,
not on that?
I don't see them. But I would entertain a motion to approve the vouchers. We don't have a signature
We can track you down to get them
and get
three
the,
signatures. afterwards.
the amount of signatures.
Yeah.
So I would entertain a motion to approve the vouchers.
I'll move to approve the vouchers as presented.
First and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 I,
Thank you all very much.
Mr. Mayor,
Is
can I
that,
give the interim city administrator's report?
Keep that up to you. Go, yes, go now.
Okay. I had my mind blown in the last month when I learned that in the entire timeline for planet Earth, the distance between humans and Tyrannosaurus Rex is shorter than the distance between T-Rex and Stegosaurus.
T-Rex and what?
Stegosaurus.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. So as
It's worth a Google.
as
So like
elementary schoolers, we just learn, yeah,
Right, dinosaurs are all there.
we just learn about dinosaurs and they're all there, and there's so much information that we don't absorb. So I have been reflecting on this, and in our staff reports to you all and in the communication that we have with you all, we're doing the same thing. There is so much information that we aren't able to share with you because of the nature of these things. So when Tiffany gives her report on public records officer duties, Dave indicates that he knows how much work that takes, but really breaking it down to say how much work that takes. So one of these records requests that's on the installment plan is on an installment plan because there are 17,000 potentially responsive emails. And her duty as the public records officer is to go through each one of those potentially responsive emails to understand whether they're actually responsive to the request.
And redact.
And then if they are,
Yeah.
redact if it's appropriate. So
Yeah.
that's just on the emails. There's the paper records and other electronic records stored there. So paper records, at least 3 full filing cabinet drawers full. Information go through to identify responsive records. So that's a lot. We don't ever tell you guys just how much of a lot that is, but that's a lot. And we'll try to do better to let you know that T-Rex was way after Stegosaurus. Another example, which relates to the issue that Mr. Hendrickson brought to our attention, is that the way our utility billing occurred and the changes in how they went into effect when you all altered how rates were applied needed a deeper dive. And so to perform that full audit of utility customers, we are working through that one by one. We're making assumptions about what those accounts should be, comparing that to what the billing actually is on that. If any of those don't match up, then we'll do additional investigation to make sure that that's being billed appropriately. We're going to go through that process to identify a full list of whether the rates were applied as you all had stated they should be when you adopted those policies. And if they weren't, well, for those that weren't, we will either provide the refunds that are due to customers, if they've been overbilled, because those are due to customers regardless of any of the input that you all have, we'll issue those refunds. If customers were underbilled, this is the situation that Mr. Hendrickson was in, we will provide that full list to you all, provide you with the full financial impact of the underbilling so that you can make a decision. We'll also have legal counsel provide an analysis of your obligations when their underbilling occurs so that you can make that decision as well. So this is no small effort to just go in and look at why something didn't happen that should have happened before. It's a big effort. And so we are undertaking that.
And it'll be nice, maybe once you get fully staffed to be able to do that.
We're doing it with.
Amongst the
staff.
myriad of things, yes, that would be
Yeah.
allowed with.
If they would just stop calling, just stop calling, just turn the phone off.
So that's all in place. We hope to have that finished by the March meeting so that you understand that and you can make whatever decisions you choose to make on the basis of that. But it's an issue. We are addressing that issue because it's important. There was a water break. Public Works crew was out there from 9 o'clock on a Saturday. They had the assistance of one of your fine fellows here to do some traffic control. And they spent maybe 6 hours getting that break, everything back in place and fixed and all the water on. The staffing side is impacting us, our ability in City Hall to produce at the level that we want to. But it's also having weird effects so that the way that our phone system turns on and off or auto forwards to a voicemail hasn't been happening. And so that water break occurred on a Saturday. It was still coming through to my cell phone. And so I ended up performing customer service on the Saturday to let them know the status of the break and what it is. And that was from 9 in the morning until 6 at night. The last customer. So I hope that that's appreciated. I think that was. Right. We'll be happy to get restaffed and get going. And then just wanted to note the Key Group was here. I did go to the Sky events. Another one of your fine members was there too. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful event. The community really came together for that, and it's a great purpose. So it's maybe I should have given this on the community development director side, but it'd be really nice to see that space downtown build as an activity center where people are going to, and that's generating spin-off for other businesses in that area because people are in the area and more likely to stop by when those storefronts are filled. So it's cool. End of report.
When are we gonna tee up the allocation of the new tax revenue?
We are working on that. So yeah, thank you. The ballot measure does appear to have passed. They will certify the election tomorrow after they do the final count. Once they certify the election, we need to prepare the ordinance that actually adopts that. So you prepare the information to put it to the voters, and the voters have responded. And now you need to prepare the ordinance. Once that's adopted, we provide the ordinance and the certification to the Department of Revenue. All the timing should work out for that to tax to go into effect in July 1st.
Does there need to be any additional public hearings or anything on it?
I haven't checked the public hearing requirements for that specific ordinance, but we will hold it if that type of ordinance requires it. We will be doing some outreach of our own to the business community, the people who need to collect that tax and provide it to the state. The State Department of Revenue provides their own notices too, but we'll do what we need to do to make sure that nobody's caught off guard and they know who to go to talk about it, which will be the State Department of Revenue. They then start remitting that month. And so we'll be able to lower the utility bills, the water bills that month also on the basis of that. So
In allocation?
the allocation. One of the, it's great to have a ballot measure because you get the community talking about what we do here and the decisions that you all make. And so one of the things that we heard from the community is, where's the savings for me? Where's the actual savings for me if this goes into place versus what I would realize in my billing? So that's a valid issue. And as we're looking into that, the choice or the way that the rate structure was applied was that the reduction on the basis of this additional revenue in the fund was an across the board reduction. So residential base rate was reduced, commercial base rates were reduced all the way through to the, from the residential 3/4 inch meter all the way through to the 6-inch meters. All of that was reduced. The per cubic foot usage fees, those were reduced as well. So I want to be able to put to you all the question of, is that what you intended when you adopted that rate structure? Did you intend for the businesses to benefit? Sorry, let me take one step back. The across the board reduction is not equal because a couple percent on the $40 a month is much different than a couple of percent on $800 a month. So want to be able to provide rate analysis of that to see if that's what you intended, or if there would be the ability to reallocate some of that additional revenue to benefit the residents, the people who voted for this. And we'll, of course, bring in the business community that would not benefit from that too, as part of the discussion. As much.
And you're already engaged to a degree, but working towards more the group that helped with the rate study previously, so they can help us take a deeper dive.
You're not looking for discussion on that tonight?
Not tonight,
Okay,
just hand it up.
I just have a question. And correct me if I'm wrong. I've had a number of people tell me that their savings is only maybe a couple dollars a month, and my understanding is it's a savings of a couple dollars as opposed to a $25 rate increase that was scheduled to go into effect this next year.
We'll provide a full review of that. Okay. Yeah.
Is there also going to be discussion in the ordinance in reference to whatever the tax brings in? Then that amount will all go towards the sewer fund rather than $475,000. They may bring in $600,000. Then that $600,000 goes to the sewer.
That was the other important part of the community discussion, is how are we guaranteeing that this happens?
Yes.
And right now there is no guarantee. And so finding a way to provide those voters with the faith in your actions or future council's actions is.
Because that was the whole
That
intent.
was the point, right?
That was the intent.
Right.
Of passing
We
the
have to just
tax.
find a way to
It wasn't
curb rails out.
supplant any other projects
Right.
going on, so.
Right.
Yeah, so that raises the question I had, David. Hopefully in the ordinance that we use to codify how the money is spent. I mean, that'd be great if that could be in the ordinance itself and not some second or third step down the road. So I'm
Right.
assuming we'll try to put it into the ordinance.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, right, okay.
So I was really just kind of feeding Ben an opportunity to tee this up. So the discussions that we've heard, the rumblings heard, and we're engaging the same people that helped us with the rate study before, so that we can massage this to the way to achieve the goal that we were trying to in the first place. The whole reason we did this was to help out those that are paying more than they have ever before. So.
And not continue, because we were looking at increases like happened quickly. This is to curb those and also look at waste adjustments. So it may only be $2 or $3 now, but it's $2 or $3, and then not a 25%, or not a big increase next time. Anyway, sorry.
So yes, I took a little extra time for that part. Thank you, Ben.
Mhm.
Anybody here for reports for the greater good? Anything that you would like to see on the agenda next month besides the new tax monies? All right. This is the opportunity for additional public comment on items that have already been discussed tonight, not an opportunity to bring up something new.
Yeah.
So we have Mary. Hang on, we'll let Mary go first. So I don't gloss right over her again. Hang on a second. Mary?
You're on mute. Do we need to mute her? There we go. Wait, I didn't mute.
Thank
There we
you,
go.
Tiffany.
You're welcome.
And I just wanted to let you all know, Mara Reynolds, our librarian of many years, passed away today. And some of you may have known her. She was a great advocate for cultural events in our community. And we are blessed with a lot of good people in our community. And I would like to keep it that way. You know, our community needs to grow. And the way to grow it is to have more cultural events. And I really applaud Kiki and her group for doing that. There might be an effort to try to save the old Grange building as a community center, developing in our community too. So again, thank you all very much for all the work that you do, and let us all stay strong in the face of what is going on in our country this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Rick?
Yeah, on the sewer allocation issue, the sewer committee implicitly structured an expectation of expansion of the sewer system. And it would be nice if the funding would be used certainly to decrease rates, but also keep an eye on expansion of the sewer system as far as getting more people in, which would cause the rates to go down. So I would ask you to consider that in the future. And there was quite a bit of work done on the sewer committee, also with the city staff supporting it. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Rick. And then I guess I did have something that I wanted to mention. Ben and I were chatting the other day, and it came to light that our sewer system was put in place in 1971. There was no sewer system. And when I say 19, it feels like a fairly recent development. You know, we're talking about 50 years, but 1971, there was septic everywhere. So this town has gone through this growing pain before. What do you mean I have to connect to sewer? And it seems so foreign to think that there would be septic in the middle of town. And Ben says that there's still a pipe that goes down Russell that used to carry effluent down to the river. So we've come a long way. I'm interested in, Ben says he can point me in the direction of the opportunity to do a deep dive on what city council went through when we were going through this exact same thing. Now, obviously, we're not throwing effluent in the river at this point, but we've gone through this process before. Yeah, well, okay.
We're not gonna talk about that.
I heard it out loud. Okay, next up, we do have executive session. This will be under RCW 42.30.1101I to discuss potential litigation. 20 minutes.
Let's do 15. I've got faith in us.
Okay, so
We do have one more.
oh, go ahead.
Hey, I'm Nick Hendrickson. I just wanted to thank the council for, hopefully, I mean, I got my fingers crossed that this situation's finally resolved. You may have got a couple gray hair over it. I know I have. I also want to thank Ben. He's been, very, helpful in, fixing a situation that he had nothing to do with, even though he might have caught some grief once or twice, but I want to thank him and for that. So might surprise you. Maybe a little different opinion what the gentleman down here had earlier, but anyways, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I guess before I set the time, I want to make sure that we have our tech in order.
Right.
Before we start.
We are not going to be able to put up that we will come out on the video, but we do have the tech in order to be able to mute this. There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. We'll mute this. We will open up a second video conferencing app in order to bring in our remote attendants and then reconvene.
15 minutes from now, so I was going to call it 7:40. So we'll reconvene at 7:55.
Hi, guys.
I just wanted to introduce myself.
Just happened.
Go ahead.
We have, time has expired on the original 15 minutes. We are going to go, add on an additional 10 minutes. We will be shooting for 8:05 to come out of executive session. Zoom back up.
Zoom is on.
So we are finished with our executive session. There's no further action by city council. Legal counsel has been asked to proceed as discussed. I would like to adjourn the meeting at 8:04. Can some of you check in with Ben tomorrow and sign the vouchers?
We need to leave.
Yeah, I'm around tomorrow.
Oh, I don't really like.
Go ahead.
checking with Ben, so.
Let him in. Oh, yeah, Pat, I think you might have seen that the mayor just adjourned the meeting, so.
Oh, okay,
Um,
okay,
Yeah,
Got it.
we're gonna close. close
okay.
it.
Bye,
I will
Pat.
go have that beer that Ben mentioned. Okay. Yeah, okay,
All
bye.
right. Bye.
So do we have?
Is it like 12 hours, 19 hours?
It's 5 hours difference.
But